Good morning. A little goof up. There's another Tejas besides me in this conference, so his presentation was on. But anyway, thank you Somaya Institute for this wonderful venue and wonderful hospitality. So let me keep it very basic and simple. Most of our audience is students, and I think not too many of them are exposed to the antiquarian wealth that state archaeology has got. As you can see earlier, this was Directorate of Archives and Monuments, and in 77 there was a separate directorate created in name of Archaeology and Museums. So since 77, we are looking after the protected monuments by state, and we have 13 museums to conserve, preserve loose objects that we designate as antiquities. As I mentioned, there are 13 museums, and very interestingly, some of the museums have been passed on to us through our colonial masters. And some of them is a legacy by princely states, and few museums have come up after independence period. So this paper essentially revolves around existing conditions, ideas of bringing museums in Maharashtra on a common platform, developing a calendrical activities with university departments, colleges, schools, promote development based on research, and promote museums as cultural spaces. So these are the 13 museums under the Directorate of Archaeology. I'll go geographically. So let's start with Konkan. We have this beautiful building known as Thiba Palace, which was built for residence of king in exile from Burma. Our Bahadur Shah Zafar was in Burma, and Burmese king was here. So not too many people are aware about this fact. So he got his palace built. So there was a British architect who designs a lot of Victorian buildings in British colonial buildings in Mumbai. The same architect was responsible for this design based on inputs from King Thiba. So after independence, this building essentially served as collector's residence or collector's office. Then it was turned into a government college, and finally, due to public pressure, it was converted into museum. So we have few objects related to Thiba, his items of daily usage, some furniture, and then there is a collection of sculptures from Konkan region. And we are still building up this museums. Recently, we found petroglyphs and many prehistoric sites in Konkan. So we are coming up with new display galleries, starting from prehistory, then a bit of proto-history in Konkan, as this is the recent added chapter in the history of Konkan. Then historical and medieval galleries. There's a dedicated gallery for ships also. So some skilled models of ships belonging to Maratha and colonial origin is ready with us. And I think within a year you will see Thiba Palace in new shape. And we'll be also attempting to recreate one of the caves which we excavated in digital format at Thiba Palace. Then let us come to another museum which is based at Nasik. This is a very mixed ensemble. There are a lot of items which were seized from customs department, and they were stacked at headquarters, and they kept adding. So there was no space to keep these antiquities. So from Mumbai, this strange ensemble was shifted to Nasik, and out of that we have curated this museum. So mostly there are sculptures of Jain and Hindu origin, and there are some weaponaries, and interestingly there is a sculpture from Uttar Pradesh also. And now this is housed in a place called Sarkarwada, which is a Peshwa era monument and which was quite in dilapidated condition, and conservation work is still in progress, and we hope to complete this museum in next 2 to 3 years. And now we are also using this newly conserved space to hold exhibitions, cultural programs. This year we are in 100th anniversary of Kumar Gandharva's birth. So we also held a classical concert dedicated to Kumar Gandharva in this space. Then there is another regional museum at Aurangabad, Sonari Mahal. This is again creation of post-independence period, and this is essentially dedicated to artifacts from Marathwada. So you have this n number of galleries, including painting galleries, utensils, satvahana, sculpture gallery, wooden carvings, metal objects, and weapon gallery at Sonari Mahal. So this is again a collection of various objects, essentially from Marathwada region. And interestingly, there is a Satvahana site at Paithan, and one gentleman called Balasaheb Patil, who had collected n number of decorated objects from Mount, and he donated those objects to government, and now there is a dedicated museum in his name. So mostly these are terracotta objects, very few stone sculptures, and few ivory and shell objects, essentially dedicated to Satvahana period. But strangely, there is not even a single textile. And recently, one very known fashion designer from Pune happened to study our collection of textiles across our state museums. And even to my surprise, we found that we have some of the best Paithanis in the country of trophy quality, which he has seen with either royalty or in some of the museums in Paris or New York. So we'll be having a dedicated conference on Paithanis. We'll be ensembling all the Paithanis with State Museum at Paithan, and we are also acquiring some of the old Paithanis with people, and we will be having a dedicated separate gallery in Paithan Museum for Paithanis, and we hope to complete that in coming year. And Sindkhet Raja is quite known and famous space. A lot of medieval monuments and antiquities, right from Yadav period Putla Baro to Maratha. You have famous Lakhoji Raja Jadhav Samadhi and Lakhoji Raja Jadhav Wada, where Jiza Mata's birth took place. So there are n number of monuments at Sindkhet Raja, and that town is littered with antiquities. And our monument attendants and others, they kept collecting these, and finally a museum came into existence. Till 3 years back, it was in Lakhoji Raja Jadhav Wada, and recently we have shifted it to a new building inside Kalakot. And again, this will be another museum dedicated to Maratha history soon. And still this is under conceptualization, and again within 2 to 3 years this museum will be fully functional as a museum dedicated to Maratha history. And Dr. Dandekar just showed this particular figure. Unfortunately, that ivory is not with us, but it is with the private collector. Late Ramlingappa Lamture is another gentleman who collected a lot of objects from there and donated to government museum, and out of which now this museum is there. So mostly dedicated to Satvahana artifacts, and of course you can see condition of the building. So luckily government accepted our proposal for new building, and 16 crores have been sanctioned for this, and new building is under construction. And again, within 2 to 3 years, I hope that this would be functional. And now we are also taking into consideration that besides display galleries, we are also keeping a lot of interactive spaces where such conferences could be held or such classrooms could be held. If there are study tours, there is a proper space to cater students inside the museum. Now let's jump to another museum. So these antiquities were taken as a loan, long-term loan from CSMVS Museum, Mumbai, and a couple of private collections were clubbed with this. And then there is a dedicated museum of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in Satara for weapons. And recently we have started conserving all this metal weaponry and some of the glass paintings that we have at Satara. Again, interesting story. The building was old, so a proposal of new building was sanctioned, and by the time construction was completed, it was taken over by the medical department during COVID times. And again, district collector of Satara gave this to medical college, and they asked us to make proposal for new building again. So we had to fight with revenue department and so on. Now this building is back with us. So now luckily a tender is also sanctioned. So we are doing interiors and soon this museum will be functional. Most importantly, the Gadi of Satara is stored in that museum. So from emotional point of view, this is quite important. These are some of the other collections of Satara Museum. This is the crowning jewel with state archaeology in form of Bhavani Library and Museum at Aun. When I joined as director, मला असा मनापासून आनंद होता की अरे औनचं म्युझियम आता आपल्याकडे, बिकॉज it's extremely rich in collections. Not too many museums in India have 15th century European paintings. So, and when Balasaheb Pantaprathinidhi he visited Europe, he collected antique paintings and antiques from Europe. He also collected some contemporary art, and he had this genuine wish की आपल्या रयतेला कलेची ओळख व्हावी, त्यांनी कलागुणांची उपासना करावी. सो यू विल सी all this southern Maharashtra, Satara, Kolhapur, Sangli has rich tradition of art. Even many of the modern artists are coming from that region. I think that is the seed sown by these princely states and these wise people. And now we are seeing a lot of creativity, a lot of art flowing in, because traditions were set way back in 20th century. And there's a famous sculptor Henry Moore's work, Mother and Child. It is also in Aun Museum. And there's a very small museum at Sangli because we have a cramped space just besides this Darbar Hall. And some of the famous paintings are stacked here, including Rajkanyate Daan by Muller, or this wedding ceremony by Dhurandhar, or this is copy of Shabri sculpture. This is also this also needs a better space, and we are looking for a space, and we hope to have a separate space for this soon. There is another interesting space which has come up in post-independence period in form of a town hall at Kolhapur. It looks like a Scottish building lifted from Scotland and kept in Kolhapur, and with beautiful interiors, thankfully restored in correct way, serves as the main gallery for Kolhapur. And this was essentially created to house artifacts from Brahmapuri excavation. And again, Abhijit referred to the famous Poseidon, and it is from Kolhapur. So right from artifacts of 2nd century BC, we have paintings of contemporary times in Kolhapur. So the chronological range of Kolhapur collection is great. So this is for the first time so this is that famous Poseidon found at Brahmapuri excavations. So this is for the first time we carried out 3D scanning project at Kolhapur, and we'll be replicating this soon for all museums across Maharashtra. And we have also launched an app called Mahamuseums. Please go to Google Play Store, download that app. It has got very basic information about each museum, and some of the artifacts that we have 3D scanned, those are also available there. And I think Tejas Diwan will be giving a separate presentation on this afternoon. Let's go to another museum in Kolhapur. That is the Chandrakant Mandre Kala Sangrahalaya. So Chandrakant Mandre was a known film actor, and he was also a painter. So he did some wonderful watercolors, poster shading, and he donated his entire works to Government of Maharashtra along with the house he was residing in. So now this house is with government, and we are taking care of all the collections by Chandrakant Mandre. The largest collection that we have is the Central Museum Nagpur. This has come to us as a colonial legacy. This is one of the oldest museum in India, because you can see the concept itself, it came in 1863. So quite old museum, and as the name says, Central Museum, it has got collections of areas from Central India all over. So you have a geological and prehistoric gallery, animal gallery, birds and reptile gallery, arts and craft gallery, sculpture gallery, weapons gallery, archaeology gallery, tribal art and culture gallery. And now recently we have opened one new Nagpur Tricentenary Gallery and Painting Gallery. These are some of the glimpses of artifacts from Kolhapur. Again, you can make out that there's a Lajjagari dating back to 2nd century BC, and there's a contemporary painting. It's a very famous painting in the central that we have, Niranjani by Hardankar. The tribal art. And lastly, we have a museum at Mahur. And very interestingly, one monument attendant who was posted here, he started collecting objects, and he kept stacking them inside a protected monument. It was so much that we had to convert that space into museum. So the gentleman named Ramakonda, he converted this Hatti Khana practically into museum. But again, with some political support, an extension was added, and there is a lot of existence of Banjara population around. So even one gallery dedicated to their culture was added to this museum, and the inauguration was pending for so long. So in 2017, we invited this retired gentleman, Ramakonda, and he inaugurated that museum. None of our museums had souvenir shops. So at Nagpur we have started this. In Aun we now have souvenir shop, and soon I think souvenir shops will be there across Maharashtra in all 13 museums. And we hope to have some online sale also of these artifacts. Then a project of high resolution photography of all artifacts will take place soon. And I think besides Chandrakant Mandre, there was not even a single catalog. I think all museums, it is like house of knowledge. It has not been exploited by the scholars. And even government never thought of bringing out catalogs, which is essential part of any government functioning or any professional museum functioning. So there are about 3 catalogs ready, and soon we'll be publishing them. Tie-ups, collaborations, partnerships. We are lucky to have CSMVS as the guiding institution with us. We did collaborate them on for Museum on Wheels. Their Museum on Wheels came to our museum, and we had tie-ups with district education officer. So at some spaces wherever they had school buses, they got the schools to our museum to see this bus. सो ह्या बसच्या निमित्तानं त्यानं आमचंही म्युझियम पाहिलं. दिस वॉज वन फॅक्टर. अँड सेकंडली we could take that bus for certain school who had no facilities of school bus or municipal schools or some of the schools in slums. So it was great success. We could reach almost to 7.5 lakh people, students, through this activity. And I think I keep on looking at syllabus of my kids, and there's nothing local. If you're staying in Bombay, you don't find existence of Bombay's history or anything in textbooks. And I think it is difficult also. If you're introducing statewide curriculums, it's hard to have local flair district-wise. So I think we need to invite schools, and we need to create separate areas dedicated to those regions or those districts where schools can come, and whatever is not in the syllabus, we could expose the children to the local history through dedicated galleries. And I think government museums need to do it, because the rest of the museums, they are quite thematic, or they have a general collection. But I think this is our moral duty to cater to the educational field. So since past 4-5 years, we have started celebrating World Heritage Day or Museum Day by holding competitions and interactive programs where students are participating in large number. And even parents, they find it amusing that, oh, such museum exists in our town, and they know because of their kids. That is a good change, that the museum is also bringing parents back to the cultural spaces. So this is how we propose to go ahead in future: collaboration, partnerships, and dialogue, digitalization, publication of data in form of e-books and catalogs, better types with educational department, curriculum-based activity designing. We need to have more and more MOUs with university departments. We have already proposed a scheme of scholarship, and will be also giving award to a senior scholar, lifetime achievement award in the name of late Sadashiv Gorakshakar. And tie-ups with cultural organizations is pretty important, and I think there are some good examples already set with Ratnagiri Art Circle, Pancham Nishad. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, there should be a dedicated corner for the children. And most importantly, how we can bring back families to the museums. I had some wonderful memories of coming to or going to museums with my parents. Can we bring that culture again? And I think most of us go to malls or cinema halls or restaurants. But let's choose museum as part of family activity. And now I'll quickly flip through the slides of State Museum. I was shocked to know that there is no State Museum of Maharashtra. A few years back, I was in Bihar, and I was amazed to see the new Bihar Museum that they have created. And we keep on talking about Maharashtra being a developed state and Bihar being a Bimaru state. But I think Bihar has done a better justice to their culture. They have invested about 600 crores 10 years back in creation of Bihar Museum. So I have no shame in saying that I was inspired from Bihar. Mumbai is taking inspiration from Bihar, that let's have a state museum here. All right. And luckily, this was also accepted by our political authorities with the same punchline, Sir, बिहारमध्ये असू शकतं, आपल्याकडे का नाही असू शकत? So that dialogue was bought, and luckily a proposal is sanctioned. No, then the government procedure followed. There was a committee. Dr. Dalal was there, and few of the people who are sitting here, they were part of the committee. So it was COVID time, so we held online meetings. Deliberations are available on YouTube. We invited suggestions from public, and after incorporating everything, we propose something on these lines. It should have dedicated galleries for the geography, geology, natural history. Then we come to our regular segments of prehistoric Maharashtra, proto-historic Maharashtra, and we wish to recreate some of the houses of Inamgaon, probably indoors, and then the galleries in chronological order of historical period, Satvahan, Wakatak, Rashtrakoot, Chalukya. And for except Rashtrakuta period, we have plenty of artifacts in our museum. So we could create a proper displays and information. So this is one of the important aspect of Maharashtra's culture will be also reflected in State Museum, and it will be more interactive and in digital format. So then, of course, followed by Sultanate and Mughal period. Then Shivakal is very important, without which you cannot really complete history of Maharashtra. A Peshwa period. Then there's a very important phase of social reformers in Maharashtra, due to which we have altogether different identity in country. So there will be a gallery dedicated to the social reformers, and of course freedom fighters. And we also propose to have a chief minister's gallery, and it will be on the lines of Madame Tussauds. You can click selfies with your favorite chief ministers. And of course, the Bharat Ratna or Maharashtra Bhushan, very important figures from Maharashtra. Of course, we want to have a dedicated gallery on industry and trade, Bollywood and drama, the tribal gallery, culture, textiles, music tradition, visual arts, crafts, modern art, and of course we want to have a lot of new technology and immersive experiences. There will be a lot of interaction, so it should be engaging with a lot of open spaces. In Bihar Museum, I have literally seen parents trying to drag out kids from those digging trenches or interactive spaces. Then it should be disabled friendly. And well, thank you so much for patient listening, and I thank Tejaswini Afre for helping me with presentation, and I thank my organization for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.